Every time I came across 13 Sentinels online, I'd see people say the same thing about it. Don't look up anything about 13 Sentinels, just play it. It made me a little skeptical, but something about the game's style drew me towards it. Like the art was gorgeous, and the whole vibe basically screamed cult classic. Now that I've played through the whole thing, I completely understand why its fans were so careful about saying too much. It was an incredible experience that I'd put right next to other life-changing games that I've played. But I know that not everyone likes to get into games blindly, which is why I wanted to talk about 13 Sentinels in this video, because I genuinely think that more people should play this. I won't reveal too much though, just enough for you guys to join the take interest in the game. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is a story about 13 high school students who pilot mechs called Sentinels in order to defend their city against giant monsters known as kaiju. Even though their mission is to save everyone, they begin to learn that there's more to it than they initially thought. If you've watched mecha anime before, then you know that it doesn't sound like anything out of the ordinary, but that's just the surface level. Like, I'd say it's 5% of the plot. Things get real crazy later on. It felt like I was encountering one plot twist after another, and every time I felt like things were making sense, it turns out it was just a tiny piece of a bigger picture. Now add the fact that you have to go through the stories of 13 characters, each with their own goals and love interests, on top of the insane revelations that their route gives, and yeah, it's an inexplainable feeling having to experience all of that. The game takes a lot of familiar themes and concepts from sci-fi, so it's not like it does unique stuff all the time, but the way it blends everything together was incredible. It manages to take overused tropes and present them in a way that's engaging and fascinating. I don't know exactly how much media the game was inspired by, but I'm just going to put a bunch of media and anime that came to mind when I played through it. Now, the narrative-driven parts of 13 Sentinels play sort of like a point-and-click side-scroller, visual novel, and the combat section is an entirely different genre, but we'll get to that later. When you play as one of the protagonists, you'll be going around various locations, talking to other characters, interacting with objects, and gaining information that lets you progress through their route. It's not always as simple as going to one location and talking to someone specific though. When you do things like have conversations with the right people, terms are added to your character's thought cloud. It's basically a dialogue option menu that appears with a push of a button, and it contains your character's thoughts, which range from people to ideas. Choosing to consider the options makes your character reflect on them and tell you the context, whether it's about someone specific or their thoughts on something new they've just learned. Now, if you do something like have a conversation with the right person, new terms get added to the cloud, and you can go up to someone and talk about it with them. Doing that lets you progress and maybe even unlock new info. But there will be times when you won't be able to continue because you need to complete a specific event in another person's route. And other times you'll be missing key terms, so you won't be able to complete the route anyway. This is where more visual novel elements come in. Every character has a flowchart in the game's menu, so certain decisions in the game will lead to new routes and information discovered. So if you end up getting locked out or stuck in one character's story, you'll have to go play as someone else. This got kinda overwhelming early on, since there were just so many people and events to keep track of. Heck, even 20 hours into the game, I still felt the same thing. The only difference is that a lot of things that I didn't know previously started to make sense. And of course, I just got to know every character at that point. But yeah, it boils down to the amount of main characters, really. Like, I went into this game blind and it shocked me. Yeah, I knew the game had many characters on the main menu art, and well, it's literally called 13 Sentinels. But for some reason, I thought that you would only play as a few of them. I thought, okay, that's a lot of people, but surely most of them are just side characters, right? Well, as you all know, I was completely wrong. You gotta play as every single one of them in order to experience the whole story. It honestly surprised me because it felt very ambitious, especially with how much foreshadowing there is. I don't think I've ever played a game with this many protagonists, but the information overload was absolutely worth it. It was satisfying just connecting the dots and seeing how each of their encounters and their routes connected to everyone else's, and the grand scheme of things. Plus, there were plenty of moments where the game felt almost like a slice of life anime, so you'll watch the characters wander around in school and see them hang out at the end of the day. The English voice acting for the game was so good that it helped me feel completely immersed, even when I was just listening to them talk about food or something. As for the combat portion of the gameplay, it made an interesting change of pace in between the novel sections, and the reason why I say that is because it turns into a real-time strategy tower defense game, not to mention that it has a completely different visual style. While the side-scroller parts had beautifully drawn character models and detailed backgrounds, the combat parts take place in something like a Google Earth 3D view of their city, with Space Invader-looking sprites representing both allies and enemies. The goal in each battle is to defend the blue terminal from incoming kaiju. It sounds simple enough, but it can get a little complicated, especially when you're starting out. Like, before you even get to the city, you have to choose up to 6 party members out of the 13 characters in the game, and you basically just have to take turns controlling them and picking their moves. Every character's Sentinel specializes in things like close combat or defense, so I made sure that I had a balanced team that could deal with different enemy types. After you defeat all the enemies, you can use the game's currency, meta chips, to buy and upgrade moves for each character. Now, the fights can be quite a spectacle, especially in the later parts of 13 Sentinels. It almost felt like I was watching explosive fireworks go off every time I'd take out missiles and destroy kaiju. It made each battle look both pretty and chaotic. The amount of enemies that you have to deal with increases the more you play the game, so at times it was like there were 100 things on the screen all at once. I found the battles to be manageable though, mostly because I changed my difficulty setting to casual early on. I was playing on normal before that, but I was just so invested in the story that it felt like the mandatory Sentinel fights paused all the fun in the actual plot. Sure, the characters would talk in these fights and even provide some foreshadowing from time to time, but I still preferred the novel sections of the game to move the story forward. So yeah, playing in casual mode honestly improved my enjoyment of the game. I ended up just marathoning new battles as soon as they were unlocked, so that I could go through the rest of the story uninterrupted. But if you want challenging RTS gameplay, then I'm sure that normal and even intense mode would be good for you, since you'll really need to make sure that your team's upgraded and prepared. Now, as much as I enjoyed 13 Sentinels, I need to admit something. I only played like 10 hours of the game and then put it on hold for nearly a year before I actually finished it. Yeah, I don't know why I did that. I love the game, but I got super distracted by other stuff. Anyway, when I finally decided to continue it, I realized, wait, I still remember a lot of stuff that happened, but because of the nature of the game, everything I knew so far about the story and characters were all jumbled up. And so I wanted to refresh my memories somehow. This is where analysis came in handy. So there are 3 sections that you can go to in the game's menu. Remembrance is for the side-scroller story bits, Destruction is for the tower defense gameplay, and Analysis is kinda like an information database, so you can review what you've learned throughout your playthrough so far by checking its categories. Analysis includes descriptions about each character, as well as items, locations, events, and even lore. It was incredibly useful reading through the entries I unlocked. It also helped that in the actual game, the characters would usually reflect on information that they've learned through the thought cloud. All of that made it so much easier to remember what I was doing, and even retain the info I've learned as the story got crazier and crazier. But yeah, After spending over 30 hours playing through it, I'd say that 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim has one of the best stories that I've ever experienced in a video game. And on top of that, the presentation is just as amazing. The graphics are pretty, the soundtrack is great, and the voice acting helped hook me into all the tense moments. I genuinely think that the game is a masterpiece, even with some minor complaints. Like I said earlier, the amount of characters and even the combat bits can affect the pacing of each storyline, but it's also one of the reasons why 13 Sentinels is so unique. Even if you're more invested in some characters more than others, I'd say that the routes are so varied that you're guaranteed to find something interesting about them. So yeah, I highly recommend it if you like niche games that'll leave a long-lasting impression on you. 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is on PS4 and Nintendo Switch. Let me know what you thought about the video, and like and subscribe if you liked my content. Thank you to my patrons at Patreon for supporting my channel. I'm glad I finally finished the game and released this video. I've always wanted to cover it, even last year, before, I got distracted. But yeah, look forward to more videos from me, whether it's indie, AAA, or a hidden gem. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.